Good morning, Mr. Patil. How are you doing? How's your father? I hope it's all good now. Just one second. Yeah. Done. Live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn, uh, live everywhere. Good morning, Nishant, says Miss Hridima Agarwal. Good morning, Miss Agarwal. Very happy to talk. Uh, everyone is good. Touch wood. Thank you. If you can hear me, should we begin? Is everything okay? Uh, we're gonna begin early today, 8 or 6. So, should we begin? Am I audible? Yes, perfect. I'm audible. Bum 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 begins, says Mr. Uh, Patil. All right. Bum 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 bum. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Thinker's Frequency. We're having such a good time. This is the peak of human civilization. We're working so hard, doing such good work for ourselves, our parents, our kids, our siblings, our husbands, our wives, our friends, everybody. Well, not other people's husbands and wives, I hope. And just when we thought things couldn't get any better, like they couldn't possibly get any better, they just did. Call it divine intervention, folks, but things just got a whole lot better. Now we have Thinker's Frequency, our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. So let's continue with our journey of reading between the lines things that are especially interesting and important in the world of business and finance. Let's go! Oh, but before we go, gotta follow a tradition, right? You know the tradition. You know the sweet and sacred tradition of the simultaneous sip. We'll all sip something together and it'll bring us good luck, as it always does, without fail, every day. And all you need for the simultaneous sip is a cup or mug, a glass, a tank, a chalice, a stein, a canteen jug, a flask, or a vessel of any kind. Pour it with your favorite liquid. I like hot water with some black pepper in it. And here we go. Man, that was beautiful. Let's do it again. Sublime. Healing. You know what the simultaneous sip says, right? You know what it says? It says that you're not alone. It says that we're in this together. That's such a beautiful thing to say. With that out of the way, good morning, Mr. Aluwalia on LinkedIn, Mr. Nishant Verma, Mr. Raju Kumar. Good morning. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Mr. Raju Kumar. So, Mr. Raju Kumar went out of his way, all out of his way, really out of his way, to actually label the episodes. And he's labeled a lot of episodes from the past. And I was looking at that labeling, the, time stamping of the whole episode. And it was so easy to track our predictions and earlier discussions. So you could just go back 10 episodes and we'll see what's happening. And we would be able to do that. All thanks to Mr. Kumar. So thank you so much, Mr. Kumar. I'm quickly pinning all his comments, and that's brilliant. So thank you so much for going out of the way. But it's going to be very, very helpful for the community, for everybody who watches, even for me when I'm going back. Because, to be honest, we can't go back on those episodes, right? Because it's just impossible to watch the old episode, and it's just not the right way to go. But now I can. So now I can go back 10 episodes, all thanks to Mr. Kumar, and look at what we were discussing, and then just click on it, and that discussion comes up. It's beautiful. Thank you. It would be helpful for all of us. Kudos, Raju, says Mr. Patil. Great. Now, did you look at Aether's stock yesterday? Did you look at Aether's stock? Well, It's all right, Nishant. I am benefiting greatly from your insights, so I thought I should give back. That's so sweet of you, and I am benefiting greatly from your participation, Mr. Kumar. It's a two-way street, and I'll come to that. So what I was saying was, did you look at Ether's stock yesterday, folks? I'm not sure if you did, but it went up to like it grew up like 12% at its peak, 10%, and then came back to like 6%. So, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember when we talked first about Ether, that stock was hovering about 323, 330 range. That was when we first talked about Ether. The first news we said was that Ether is uh, closing in as far as the share of Ola is considered, the sales, monthly sales volume of Ola is considered. And we said it's gonna have a reversal, a flip in the valuation of two companies. Ather at that time was worth 1.2 billion, Ola was 1.8, 1.9 billion. And we said that, you know, it's gonna flip. So Ola is gonna go 1.2. Basically, Ola will decline and Ather will take its place and it'll go up to $2 billion. Now, Ether is, since then, the stock is at the moment somewhere around 520, 530. So if you would have, you know, invested in Ether or chose that stock, it would have been, your 100 rupees would have been about 160, 165, right? Now, that's obviously great. If you chose to look at that company, you know, congratulations, you're welcome. But if you did not, there is no problem. There is no problem. Don't worry about it. Because the world keeps on presenting more and more opportunities for you. All we need to learn to do is to look into the future, right? If we can somehow look into the future, that's it. The world will bring opportunities like this all the time, every day. So, what was that line from Margin Call, right? You know why I make the big bucks? Because I can hear the music playing a day, a week, a month from now, right? So, that's great. Mr. Tiwari says, auto index, it's itself up like 15%. Clearly, Ether is an outperformer. Yeah, of course. So that's what we do, right? We want to outperform. With that out of the way, let's begin. Construction gear production gets a 16,000 crore build-up. So India imports about 50% of its construction gear, like tunneling machines, boring machines, and so on and so on. What it's trying to do is basically looking at bringing the import dependence down as far as this construction gear is considered. So a lot of it comes from China, Vietnam, and a lot of other countries, mostly China. But yeah. Mr. Tiwari says Nishant index soon in the market. Not really. You know, I'm not much of a trader, to be honest. But yeah, you never know. You never know. We can have a thinker's frequency index, right? Because just diverting from the current news, but we talked about the industry which is gonna grow 10x, right? That was the weight loss GLP thing. It's gonna go 10x. 1 lakh people using it right now, 12 lakh using. Just in 2 years, it's gonna 10x. So a very easy way of making money, you know what? You've got to look at the vendors or the suppliers or participants of that industry who are listed. Or if you can get your hands on the unlisted guys, sure. But all you need to do is look at the people who are a part of that play in a very direct way, right? Let's say there were some plastics guys from Gujarat who were doing really well, right? Because it's at the end of the day something like an insulin shot, right? Shali Engineering in Plastics, Mr. Sandeep, you're so right. You remember. So there are a lot of players who are going to be indirectly or directly involved in that. And you've got to look at just one guy or 5 guys who are going to benefit. And their earnings are just going to go off the roof, right? And your stock will basically go 5x or 10x maybe in 2 years. But that requires some real research, some studying. But that's a very good way to park money, right? So presenting opportunities coming to us all from all directions. Moving on, construction gear production likely to get a 16,000 crore build-up. The government is essentially, you know, looking at consultations on the proposals have started. Indian construction equipment industry, inclusive of exports, grew 3%, which is very lackadaisical. So 3% is nothing, right? 3% is nothing. So India, of course, wants Atmanirbharta in this market. They want to grow this industry faster where it has a lot of potential, because India's, where does this come from? Okay, infrastructure spend in India was 2 lakh crore rupees in 2015, right? Right now it's at 11.6 lakh crores, 5x, right? That's the infrastructure spend. Why would be why should we be importing construction gear to that extent, right? So they are basically giving a SOP. Interministerial consultations are underway on a 14 to 16,000 crore incentive scheme for the construction equipment manufacturing industry. So you know what happens when you bring a SOP as far as this particular place considered, right? You saw what happened to the smartphone industry, the PLI thing. You saw what happened to the automotive industry, the EV play with the PLI thing. You saw what happened with the medical manufacturing play with the PLI thing. So something like that they are trying to spur as far as the construction gear is considered, tunneling, boring, and so on and so forth. Speaking of PLI, they caught one company, a Slovenian company, and they screwed India over. You know what they did? They did something very interesting. So they signed a document with the railways and everything, saying that they're gonna import, they're gonna make 90% of stuff in India. The joint venture, they essentially said we are localizing our part and stuff, and then they just bought the part from Slovenia. Right? So a lot of this happens. This also happened, by the way, if you remember, in the PLI game with Hero Electric and Okinawa kind of players. Crompton Greaves, Hero Electric, Okinawa, Nawa. So what they had was a PLI scheme, and they were supposed to localize the production of these electric scooties, right? And they were supposed to get a SOP for every vehicle they made. They were supposed to get money. So they kept collecting money, but they were essentially just bringing parts from China and assembling them here, right? The government caught it, and the government asked for refunds. Both the companies went under. Hero Electric, Okinawa, they're both unfortunately history. They at one time they used to have like 80% of the entire market, you know. So that's what happens. Now this particular joint venture, they are reevaluating, and they're saying, hey, it's business as usual. We're gonna study. Such shameless people. Anyway, Mr. Satish has written a big comment. Will weight loss drug become a commodity as more pharmaceutical companies enter the market? There is a herd mentality. However, vendors catering to this market may do well. As you mentioned, it's becoming a commodity. What do you mean? Weight loss drugs, the patent is expiring in 2026 March. Novo Nordisk's patent. That means all the generic drugs are gonna come in. So all the pharma players, they're gonna launch their generic plays, right? So of course, the margins will hit for the people who invented the drug. There's not gonna be huge margins. However, the commodity suppliers of those players, like the plastics guys or the needle guys or the packaging guys or some consultation guys, they're gonna benefit a lot. So that's what I meant. Moving on. Stargate is getting opened up to India. Mr. Sam Altman is talking to companies for tying up. Geo is being roped in as a data center player. Reliance can make data centers, and then there's also gonna be talks with a lot of Indian companies like Sifi, Yota, and so on and so forth, right? So Stargate, a $500 billion project with OpenAI and Mr. Sam Altman and Masayoshi Son. He's also a very big investor in that whole Stargate project. It was touted by Mr. Trump as like the American power project. Now they're talking about coming to India. So, evaluating partners for Stargate India chapter, Sifi, Yota, E2E, data residency in India, because India has data localization norms. So India says that you cannot take our data away. I think it's a missed opportunity. It's yet another lost opportunity. We missed the internet play. We couldn't make any internet company of India, right? uh, all the consumer internet companies went to US. China, on the other hand, used some or the other ways to actually block uh, the internet play, right? And India, since we lost that entire paradigm of the whole smartphone revolution, we could have done something to for our AI paradigm. We could have sort of promoted some indigenous player or some local player or supported some local player in such a way that adoption of that particular player could have been a competing factor, or let's say uh, it sounds protectionist, but we could have done it and we should have done it because we're just gonna piss all the data away. Somebody says, Mr. Manocha writes, Nishant, on a different front, I'm curious to know what made you start with Thinker's Frequency. How do you see this evolving on the future? Well, we've talked a lot about this, Mr. Manocha, and I've also written about it. We'll discuss it later. So yeah, we were talking that I think it's gonna. Uh, it sounds like a missed opportunity. What do you think? What essentially Indian players are gonna do is just gonna be dealing in real estate, dealing in data centers, the commodity, right? We are just gonna be localizing the data, so it's just gonna create some jobs. Otherwise, all of the engineering, the heavy engineering, will be done by folks in the West, and it's gonna be an Internet 2.0. Unfortunately, do you want it to be an Internet 2.0? No, but that's what it looks like. Speaking of Internet 2.0, Indian IT Edge, there's a news. We discussed it. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. How would uh, how would US essentially target the Indian IT companies? So US tariffs didn't work because India kept importing oil from Russia, and those tariffs didn't really hurt Russia. They didn't, you know, it just basically tripped on India. So US shot itself in the foot and tripped on India. So India got hurt. That its exports to US got hurt. But otherwise, it was business as usual. It wasn't enough. So what Peter Navarro, the Lutnick, these guys are saying is that India will have to come around. The road to peace goes through New Delhi. India will have to stop buying Russian oil. So the person says, but what about China? So we've already tariffed China to the extent we can't tariff China more, but India should avoid it, right? There should be something called, something to do with India. And people are like, but EU is also, so EU is stopping those supplies, those imports, but India should do it. What will you do next? So we are looking at a bill which essentially tariffs Indian IT services. How are you going to do it? So we're going to tax the companies which are using offshoring. So they're looking at, they've come up with a hire act. It's a bill which basically says halt some offshoring and stuff like that. HIRE. We're going to come to its abbreviation. They said they're going to tax 25% the companies who are essentially offshoring operations. That's a way to do it. That could be a way to actually tariff the IT services successfully. But can you do it? Would it lead to anything? Would the companies not just set up their second units as GCCs in India, right? If they wanted to use the cost arbitrage, would you tax that as well? Because that won't be, it's a capacity center. Would it be the same thing? But one thing is for sure, it's gonna be very difficult for IT companies to navigate in their current model, right? Because it'll add to the stress that the IT industry is going through. So it's been 100 days, and viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember that we talked about it in the first few days, that the going will just keep getting tougher for the IT guys, right? For the foreseeable future. And that's exactly what's happening. It's 3 months and 10 days. Indian IT is just getting one bad news after the other, right? Moving on. $110 million to Porter. Porter is the on-demand logistics company. It's done remarkably well in a market where others have failed. A lot of companies began in this arena. I remember Dunthing. Then there are a lot of companies which started. Dunzo, of course, was one player. Borzo is still running. It's a very small company though. But Porter is huge. It's valued at what is it valued at? 1.2 billion dollars. That's huge. 300 million have been raised until now. 310 million. That's terrific. So kudos to Porter. Their profitability profile is also pretty solid. To be honest, I mean it's not bad. At a 4,000 crore revenue, they have been able to book a profit of, let's say, 50 to 60 crores. In the early 2000s, India did a lot of lobbying for IT. Hope they are still active now, says Mr. Tiwari. Well, let's see. Let's see. How can you lobby forces beyond your control? Sure, you will be able to get, let's say, the tax out. This bill won't pass. Okay, a lot of money. You have a lot of money. These people have a lot of money. You will say that don't pass this bill. But what are you going to do about the AI paradigm? You can't lobby against technology, right? So times are going to be a bit complicated. Moving on, gold burns a hole in the festive pocket. Gold has been rising. The price of gold has been rising. It's fallen a bit, like $100 over the overall, but it's still very high. And because it's very high, it's not being bought. People are not being able to buy gold a lot, right? Which is basically looking bleak as far as the festive purchases are considered. So do you remember something we talked about? How the government talked about solving this particular issue. The government knew that the gold is gonna rise. The government is knew it saw it coming that the gold is not gonna fall anytime soon. All of a sudden, unless a lot of things happen, which is very less probable. So the government solved this particular gold sales lackluster prospect problem. Do you remember that? We discussed that. Can you give me a cheer on that? Do you remember what the government did to essentially solve the gold consumption problem? Knowing that the gold prices will be up and there's nothing that it can do about it, and the festive season will be up, and if the gold purchases don't happen, it's not going to be looking green. What did the government do? Question. Some comments in the meanwhile. 18 karat gold. No, it was 9 karat gold, right? Mr. Tiwari, you're right. So government essentially talked about hallmarking the lower karat golds, right? So 18 karat is already hallmark. They were talking about the lowest karat gold, which is like the 9 karat gold, and hallmarking it so that those purchases can be, let's say, mainstreamed, right? So that's what the government did. Mr. Tiwari, congratulations. You really tracked it. Moving on. Demand plummets over 25% this season till Onam over last year as consumers purchase less and lighter jewelry and coins. So gold price is at 107,000 rupees, 1,07,000 rupees, 49% year on year. 49% up year on year. That's huge. So the world is shifting away from dollar in a very clear way. What the world is doing, it's stocking up on gold. So there's the currency. There are two kinds of currencies: the currency of exchange and the currency of value, right? And every reserve bank in the world is essentially stocking gold as the currency of value, while they transact in dollar because they have to, right? And the tariffs are hurting that as well. So de-dollarization, Mr. Ray Dalio's pitch, looks pretty solid right now. Moving on. 2025 outlook cut, handset volume may stay on mute. So we've discussed how smartphones were talking about getting some sort of GST rebate, GST relief. So they were saying that, hey, smartphone manufacturing is such an important play, and we are still, taxed, or let's say GST for smartphones is still 18%. You got to bring it down. Can you bring it down to 5%? If you bring it down to 5%, smartphones will also start selling like cars, right? Because the smartphone industry isn't growing. For a couple of years, for 3 years, it's basically at 150 million, 149 million, 148 million, and so on and so forth. It's not growing. Because it's not growing, it's bad. The government also put its PLI to a halt. No PLI softs for smartphone manufacturing anymore. The government PLI for smartphone manufacturing began in 2017, right? But now the government said enough of PLI, man. You're a mature industry, so grow up. So the smartphone industry dealt with that in a very different way. So what they did was they went, uh, the Foxconn guys, Dixon guys went vertically integrated. So they went downstream. They started buying companies to enhance their profitability profile. But at the moment, 2025 outlook is cut. Brands start offering discounts early. Industry trackers expect shipments to fall, citing lack of Q4 demand quarter. So they're saying it just might not happen, right? It might just be flat. So what they're expecting is that something might happen because everything is so cheap and cars are getting cheaper and so on and so forth. So people will enter the markets, and as they enter the market, the cascading effect of it might just lead them to buy a phone. But in a direct, consequential way, there won't be any growth as far as smartphone sales are considered. What do you think about that? Annual shipments, IDC India says 146, 149 million. Canalys says 155. Counterpoint says 158. Pretty much flat. Moving on. There's a lot of instability happening in Nepal. Student protests. Whenever you read student protests, you got to doubt it. It cannot be a student protest. Nothing is a student protest. Students don't, go out of their way to topple the government. It's all bullshit. Uh, this happened in Bangladesh. This happens a lot of places. 10 years ago, if you would have talked about a protest, right, you would have taken it seriously. Oh, it is a protest. It must have, led to something and so on and so forth. Something. You felt that the protest is essentially an organic activity. But now, ever since Black Lives Matters, ever since everything, right, the whole protest in India as well, you find out that, oh, it's all paid and organized. So something must be brewing in Nepal. While it's obviously a sad situation for Nepal, uh, the current Nepalese government is anti-India, is not very pro-India. So if this particular government faces some problem, it gets toppled, somebody else comes and they are pro-India, it might just be good news for India, right? But I'm just insinuating. Uh, I'm sorry, I'm just speculating. You don't know. So please don't take my word to the bank on this one. Moving on. Why all our neighbors are a problem for us? We are not. It's not a problem for us. So, Mr. Patil, I had this discussion with a legendary investor, right? And we talked about. So they said, the person said that India screwed up its relationships with neighbors, its relationships with Bangladesh, its relationship with Nepal, its relationship, these two particularly. India screwed up, and I said India didn't screw up anything, right? India is fighting forces that are way above its weight class. And we've discussed this. Viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. You have the American deep state, the CIA, which is a $17.5 billion agency, which essentially is all about setting people up in its favor. And bigger than CIA, is MSS, the $20 billion agency, which is the Chinese intelligence agency. Now, $20 billion in China in PPP terms means like $40 billion. So it's essentially thrice the CIA. And India is fighting these two players, way above its weight class. India's total defense budget is $80 billion. How much must we be spending on intelligence? What's Raw's budget? It's nothing, right? It's nothing in comparison. It's absolutely nothing. It's a footnote in the list of all of these list of things these people do. So these people have a great incentive to actually turn the government in their favor, which is what happened in Bangladesh. So Madam Sheikh Hasina was a very pro-Indian prime minister. She did very well. India and Bangladesh were warming up. In fact, not warming up. They had warmed up. Our relationship was great. Trade, everything was great. The inland waterways, it was actually going to Bangladesh, right? But they just toppled that government, and now you have Yunus government, which is absolutely anti-India, right? Why? Because Madam Sheikh Hasina said that Bangladesh is not going to become a vassal state to US. She started giving it back to US, and then she got dethroned, right? Nepal was also a very pro-Indian government, pro I shouldn't say that, but yeah, no, Nepal was a Hindu country. Nepal was the only Hindu country in the world. But then the government flipped and it became a secular country, so to speak. Now you can guess how organic that might have been, right? And since then, Nepal is all about China. It's all about sticking it to India. Even though Nepal and India are essentially just one country, right? We are brothers, right? So it's not that India is faltering. It's basically the people we are fighting are just way above our weight class. What can we do about it? Moving on. So all the best to Nepal. Oil gains despite OPEC planning to boost production. So OPEC, the West Asian bloc, is essentially boosting production, but oil isn't rising. Oil isn't falling. So when OPEC boosts production, oil prices are supposed to fall, right? But oil prices are not falling. Why? Because China is stocking up all the oil, and China is a very opaque market. So it's basically just stocking it up and nobody is essentially seeing. But people are saying that China cannot stock it up forever, and this backwardation, it's gonna stop, right? So the report says, in the words, the dominant narrative has been one of the massive oil glut, excessive oil, but on one in which stocks have not been building in the world's most visible locations, and the one in which market remains backwardation. So even though the production is going up, the stock doesn't get built up, even though the demand is falling. So it's quite a conundrum. It says the common view is that oil glut is being translated in the buildup of stocks in non-OECD, mainly in China, one of the least transparent locations in the world. So, more oil, all goes to China. Nobody knows where it goes, right? SpiceJet plans gets jets off ground, induct planes on short-term lease. SpiceJet is in a lot of trouble. The group raised 3,000 crores, but most of that went to its debt servicing, right? And nothing really went into the business. Very small part of it. Whilst SpiceJet doesn't have many planes in the 737 plane, airline said in an investor presentation that out of 56 planes it currently has, only 21 operational, while the rest remain grounded. Out of 8 Boeing 737, one is operation. Rivals Air India, Akasa have 349, 170. Indigo, Air India, and they have like 349, 170, 140. They have just one. So a lot of grounding issues. They're trying to get some jets off the ground. They want to induct new planes on a short-term lease to be able to generate something. They've lost money. It looks like it's highly probable that SpiceJet will go under. It's not being able to raise money, and whatever money it raised, it just went down the toilet. And that looks like SpiceJet is gonna go the jet way, or let's say, which was the other company which went under, Go Airway, right? 236 loss for the net quarter, 330 crore in free cash right now. So they just have 333 crores. After raising 3,000 crore last year, Mr. Ajay Singh had said the carrier would be operating 40 aircraft and 100 aircraft fleet. However, the plan did not materialize, as the carrier was unable to get new aircraft, while most of the fresh funding was used to clear statutory dues. So sad. Moving on. DOT unveils draft authorization regime. Right now it's a license regime. They're giving an option of authorization regime. They're saying that instead of signing an agreement, the license agreement which has everything, you can also have an authorization play, which will reduce regulations. The companies are saying, hey, don't do this, man. Either just mention everything as far as this authorization scheme is considered, because if there is a regulatory uncertainty, our markets will tumble, right? People will be very scared. Moving on. India Inc. plans to hire in December quarter, but at a slower pace. So quarter on quarter, it has slowed down. In the last quarter, they hired 7%. Whatever they hired, they're hiring a little less now. But year on year, like the same time last year, in that regard, they had grown 20%. And it's much higher than global average. So, yeah. India has the second highest net employment outlook globally after UAE. Companies are hiring. Some numbers. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. About 55% of 3,000 employers were asked about their hiring plan for December, said they would hire more people, while 12% expected a decrease in hiring intent or had no plans to backfill. So that's what's happening. Mr. Mandavya has said that the data, the job data, he came out with his own data. He said that India is the best hiring country right now, and while Q on Q it stabilized, year on year it went up, and it's not just EPFO. So what I was saying, something like that he came up with. China exports ease to 6-month low as US orders fall. Shipments to US tumble 33%, while that to EU and Southeast Asia show strong gains. What do you see when China's US shipments go down, but Southeast shipments go up? Do you know what I'm talking about? What do you think is happening when China's US shipments go down, but Southeast Asian shipments are going up? Can you guess what I'm coming at? Can you guess? US shipments going down, but Southeast Asia shipments going up by a lot. What do you think is happening? It's just one word. It's one word. It's basically re and then one word. Yes. Yes, says Mr. Singh. Routing. Rerouting. Mr. Tiwari, you're so right. It's rerouting, essentially. So China is very smart when it comes to that. People say that, oh, China is falling, look at their exports falling and so on and so forth. And I say, look at the monthly surplus of Chinese exports, even if they've fallen, right? So here's the number. Overseas sales rose 4.4% year on year, right, to 322 billion. Exports might have fallen in US, but 4.4% from a year earlier. So year on year, still growing. And median forecast was 5.5%. Okay, that what is the surplus? The surplus is, in just a month, $102 billion. $102 billion worth of surplus. So imports edged up 1.3%. Exports grew 4.4%. Surplus is 100 billion per month. That is $1.2 trillion per year. So 25% of Indian GDP is just China's export surplus, right? And we talked about the domestic economy of China, right? So China's consumption has slowed down, sure. China's consumption has slowed down. It's not growing, and there are real estate trouble. But what is the percentage of consumption per GDP of China? What is domestic consumption's GDP contribution to China? It's 70% of US, in the case of US. It's 62% in the case of India. What is the domestic consumption contribution to Chinese GDP? You remember that? We discussed that, right? It's 38 to 40%. So Chinese economy is not that consumption dependent. So they can raise that up, right? And they are looking at doing that. So if you would have listened to Paul Krugman, around 35%, you're right, Mr. Patel. Paul Krugman in 2004 said that China is piling on debt and Chinese debt is too much and it's gonna crash and so on and so forth. And I looked at that data. And it said only 12% is external debt, right? Rest is all internal debt. So what? What are you talking about? What are you talking about? As a Martin Scorsese character would say. Moving on. SC consolidates online gaming ban petitions. So a lot of A23 kind of guys, they came up, petitioned against the government order of blocking the online betting play, let's call it. Supreme Court says let's bring it together in one petition and then pitch it. By the way, an interesting legal case is happening with Dial and GMR chairman. DIAL is basically Delhi International Airport Authority Limited or something of that sort. So there's a lease agreement of the farm, Pushpanjali farm. Then there was, a residence of the GMR chairman in that farm. So that lease agreement sort of got translated into a sale deed. But then there was some problem as far as that conversion of that deal is considered, because that person said nowhere does it say that this particular deal, this particular residence is a part of that overall deal. So that lease agreement doesn't hold. So an interesting legal rigmarole happening. You know who makes money, right? In a case like this, who makes money? Who makes money? Who make money in all the cases, right? Lawyers make money. Lawyers make money. Uh, Moving on. Government career portal has 4 million vacancies. Jobless rate lowest amongst G20. Says Mr. Mandavya, the minister. He says it's 2%. The jobless rated as 2%. He says there's an NCS portal, National Career Services portal. They've tied up with Quicker and so on and so forth, and they're listing a lot of jobs, and the jobless rate is down, he says. Well, that's not a great argument, right? But okay. These partnerships would make suitable employment opportunities as well as structured mentoring available to job seekers. He's talking about the NCS play, right? It has signed Memorandum of Understanding (MOUs) with Mentor Together and Quicker. Future of Jobs report, World Economic Forum. He said India's unemployment rate is lowest among G20 nations. Labor, uh, you know, currently there are 4.4 million active vacancies on the portal. Uh, this is pretty good, but that's not a great argument, to be honest. He could have framed it better. Moving on. Bangladesh says Hilsa quota for puja drops 50% this year at 1200 ton. So Bangladesh exports a fish called Hilsa, which is a part of the Durga Puja, ceremony. The thing, I'm a vegetarian, so I won't be the perfect person to explain what this is, but it said that it's a preferred fish for a lot of connoisseurs, right? So Bangladesh has blocked that particular play, and people said it's going to be a diplomatic fight, Hilsa diplomacy, and so on. So they've raised that quota up. Not a news, it's a nothing burger. Moving on. Sony Pictures is the last US entertainment company with a big India show. Sony was merging with Z. Didn't happen. So the chief of Sony is saying, president and CEO, that we attempted a merger, but it didn't work out. We're still open to organic and inorganic growth here. Tough time to be in the entertainment business. It says 10% of global revenue and profit comes from India. The Sony Entertainment play, Sony Pictures, right? Speaking of entertainment and pictures, Dish TV is diversifying. It's coming up with devices. Dish TV, which is diversifying revenue stream, expects 1/4 of its contribution to come from non-DTH services as it enters new market such as smart TV. So this is the natural course of action of a falling industry, right? Diversification. We've talked about how DTH has fallen. 150 million people in 2015, right? In 2025, they're like 90 million subscribers. In 2030, they're going to be 75 million subscribers. So in just 15 years, this industry will be half of what it was. Half. Clear half. Right? Now that's obviously a death knell. So what do you do? What do you do? You start going away from the whole thing, right? So they're talking about smart TVs, which is going to package the cable thing and also the OTT, and it's going to be a total entertainment product, like a smart TV kind of a play. So they are entering. How successful will they be in this venture? God only knows, because it's a very difficult play, right? With players like Xiaomi and all of these people who have like killer pricing. They don't make any money, right? So it remains to be seen how it turns out for players like Dish TV in this regard. But they are trying. So let's wish them luck. This is what happens in every industry. So you know what Radio Mirchi is now called? It's not called Radio Mirchi anymore. Radio Mirchi is a Times Internet owned radio company. It used to be a radio company. Now it's called Mirchi Entertainment. So diversifying away from radio to, let's say, events, A&R, and so on and so on and so on, right? So that's what happens. Auto sales move forward in August, but slowly. Now, nobody should be surprised, least of all the viewers of Thinkers Frequency. Auto sales are moving forward in August, but slowly. Why slowly? Can anybody guess why slowly? Why didn't auto sales in August go full bazooka? Can anybody guess that? We know about this. We know the answer. So what is the answer? What is the answer? We discussed a lot about this, right? There are two principles which are generally followed. One is in this direction, one is in that direction. Both of them are not such good news, right? For the supply chain, for the inventory hold up, for everything, for cash flows of a company. We talked about an effect which is very much in this regard, where a company essentially touted their next models, but it fell apart because, you remember that? No answers. Come on, it's deferred purchases, right? It's deferred purchases. So auto sales move forward, but slowly. Total retails rose to 1.96 million from 1.91 million a year earlier. That's a rise. Two wheelers reported 2.2% growth. Tractors 30% growth. But because of special monsoon season and everything. But it's not the growth that they're looking at, 2.8%. So it's gonna all buzz off in September, October, November, right? Because it's gonna get deferred to that play. For many, owning a home remains a dream as prices surge. Of course, over 81% of property seekers across India are concerned about rising costs as average residential prices jump over 50% in 2 years. Average residential prices jump over 50% in 2 years. And while the luxury real estate market is buzzing, the affordable real estate market is not that great at all. And you remember we talked about what is a good measure of a country's economic prosperity. What is a good measure to know that the company is actually doing well? Now, somebody, Mr. Tucker Carlson, said that while GDP is touted as a very, very big thing, GDP is not a great indicator of a country as far as its economic place considered. A great indicator for a country is whether its 30-year-old guy, making average salary, can actually buy a home, right? And that was an interesting idea. Whether a 30-year-old guy making average salary can build a family and buy a home. That is an indicator of a good economy, right? So why he said that was because at this moment, just 40 years ago, just 30, 40 years ago, the average age of a home buyer in US was about 30, 32, 33 years, right? Maybe even lesser. And now it's up to 42 or 52 or something, 42, maybe. So average age of a home buyer in US has gone way up. That means that young people are not being able to buy homes. That means that it's a bit of a problem, right? So a few numbers. Top 7 cities have seen average residential prices rise from 6,000 rupees per square feet to 8,900 per square feet from 2023 to 2025. That's what's happening. That's not a great market, right? A lot of people are saying that the cheap houses that they are getting, let's say 60 lakh to a crore or something of that sort, they're not built well. They're not doing it for them, right? And it's not great. So unfortunate. What's a way to solve it? Decentralization. Mr. Sridhar Vembu says, stop focusing on these big cities, distribute development, right? Bring GCCs to tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 guys. Bring these companies, these investments away from big cities so that these small cities can grow, because their real estate is very cheap, right? And if they can get some sort of boost as far as the whole place considered, it's all brilliant, right? So that's what Mr. Sridhar Vembu said, and that's what a lot of people, less smart people say, right? Uh, Moving on. Caught in the Hire Act. So I talked about Hire Act. You remember that? US. Its full form is Halting International Relocation of Employment Act. Uh, Senator Bernie has written it. Let's see. Let's see what happens with that. Infosys to revive campus hiring after 2 years. It's going to hire 20,000 people. While TCS actually fired people, but TCS in the next few years looks at hiring 70,000 people. So let's see what happens with IT. It's clearly decoupled as far as employment is considered. So earlier, IT used to be the mass recruiter in every college, right? Every college used to have like 300, 400 people going to Infosys, HCL, TCS, and so on and so forth. Things are different now, very different. But at least this particular year will be good, right? Moving on, AI could make the smartphone passe. What comes next? Pass. Is basically they're saying that smartphones, it's something that we discussed, viewers of Thinkers Frequency would remember. What Tesla was trying to do, what Mr. Musk was trying to do. So what Mr. Musk said is that he has the internet signal, right? Satcom. What's its name? It's called Starlink, right? So he has Starlink. The Starlink has a terminal. Now he has XAI, AI company. Then he has X, which can use this to make calls. Using using AI, it can have its own operating system, and it can actually have every app running through AI, right? So it doesn't need to have apps. You don't interact with that technology like you used to, like you downloaded an app and so on and so forth. AI agent does it for you, right? So he plans to create an entire operating system, essentially competing with the likes of you know who, right? Microsoft and so on and so forth. So if you want your phone to essentially start, a spreadsheet, you won't actually open Microsoft Excel. You'll ask AI to make a spreadsheet for you, and it'll make a spreadsheet for you. That's the vision. So the smartphone tech essentially, uh, you know, might just be looking at getting replaced by something else. Moving on, Axion closes 61 million round, early stage bets in fintech. Well, I'm not building in fintech, so I don't care. Moving on. Comply with US law or else. Trump wants foreign companies. So this is regarding the very interesting and funny case with Hyundai. These people, what they did was they built a factory in US, in Georgia, and ICE raided them, and they found out that these people are not Americans that they've hired. So everybody thought that they must have hired like Mexicans and all these people from Southern American countries, right? The usual illegal immigrants. But then, it turned out that these people have just brought Koreans, and the Koreans were working in US. So they built a factory. They followed the letter of law, but not the spirit of law. So they just brought Koreans from, bought Koreans, what am I saying? Brought Koreans, and 300 Koreans were working in that factory of 450. So Trump says, hey, come on, man. What are you doing, man? Are you serious? That's what he said, right? Let's move on. Fast track merger facility, more unlisted companies now. The government is really trying hard for unlisted company shares, dividends, unclaimed shares, and so on and so forth. So that ease of doing business can be accelerated, or let's say enhanced. Fast track merger facility for more unlisted companies now. Moving on. Right now there's a lot of regulation as far as that play is considered. It's gonna get simplified. India's space economy to touch 44 billion by 2033. So space economy is growing. Right now it's at what, 8 to 9 billion? Let me check. It must be it's at 8.4 billion. I was right. 8.4 billion to 44 billion. That's about 5 times right? It's gonna grow 5 times in how many years? Right now it's 2025, 8 years. 5 times in 8 years. That's like a CAGR of some 14, 15, 18%, right? Very huge. Uh, uh, and not just space, right? Satcom is growing, and both of these are gonna be very, very uh, collinear, let's say. UPI spend on digital goods falls in 26% in August after gaming ban. Well, nobody should be surprised. A lot of rally in auto stocks. Tata and Mahindra lead auto rally. Great, stocks with a tax variant, GST. Moving on. There's some sort of analysis of Inox Wind. It's doing well. Better fiscal show, but that's okay. Oil gains, modest output hike. We've talked about that already. Gold has come down by 600 rupees. Not really anything to notice. Bajaj Finance aims at 10 lakh crore loan book by FY29, likely to look within for next MD, says Vice Chairman Rajiv Jain. Mr. Rajiv Jain says that's what's going to happen. Speaking of trade deals, you know what's happening? The sword which is hanging on India's neck is that US is trying to influence Europe to not buy from India, to tariff India, right? So that India stops buying Russian oil because they can't put a finger on China. Those pieces of shit, right? So what they're trying to do is they're trying to quickly ask Europe to not buy from India, tariff India like US has done. If Europe tariffs India, India is done, right? We'd be screwed totally. We won't have anywhere to go. So what India is trying to do is it's accelerating its deal with Europe. It's just trying to cut a deal quickly so that they don't get influenced with the whole US scene, right? Europe wouldn't like to do that. Obviously, it would be against its interests, but that's what India is doing. In the meanwhile, India is finalizing its trade pacts with countries like Qatar and Israel, right? Boosting bilateral trade agreements and investments. So India's and Israel investment, between the two countries stand at 800 million right now. It's basically nothing, right? It's gonna get boosted. And India and Qatar are finalizing trade pact in October. New Delhi feels trade partnerships with other countries crucial to offset impact of tariffs. So we talked about how India was trying to deal with the whole tariff situation. We discussed it in great depth, but since we have some time, we can talk about it. What India did was, what can you do? Right? Some 40 billion worth of exports get hurt. What do? You talk to every country you're exporting right now. Every country. So if a country is importing a billion, you ask them to import a billion and 200 million, right? 1.2 billion. If a country is importing a billion, you ask them to import 1.1 billion, and so on, right? So all India is trying to do is talk to as many countries as possible, even going as far as Africa, West Asia, Australia, and so on and so forth. Everywhere, just import a bit more so that this $40 billion can be, offset. The second way is boosting consumption, which is what the GST plays called for, right? The whole consumption play comes. Then rerouting its own, what China does, India wants to do. The diamond play goes from Dubai, from, all of these countries, right? So rerouting of operations and then hiring in different countries. So essentially setting up secondary units in different places. And these are the ways. Yeah, I hope I'm not missing anything. I feel I'm missing something, but let's see. So Railway suspends Jupiter Covis joint venture for faking localization. We've talked about that. The Slovenian company, the deviation was discovered by Research, Design and Standards Organization, RDSO, the Slovenian company, guys, when they fooled Lucknow, which found the brake disc casting was not manufactured in Jabalpur, but from Slovenia. So they looked at the brake casting and they're like, this is not from Jabalpur. And that's what led to, these people had promised like 90% local production. Shameless. But anyway, reforms needed to boost iron ore supply, says Mr. Jindal from JSW. A lot of action happening as far as that place considered. With this, we come to the end of the 107th episode of Thinker's Frequency. Our daily mental workout, our daily dose of insights and analysis which don't lead to paralysis right before we punch in. I hope you enjoyed the show. Uh, I hope it added value to you. It definitely added a lot of value to me. I got to learn a lot thanks to you, thanks to your participation. I learned and we learned together. I need to thank Mr. Patil, Miss Ridhima Agrawal, Mr. Raju Kumar, especially Mr. Raju Kumar for doing the indexing of the episodes. That's great help, Mr. Kumar. We all are very thankful to you. On behalf of everybody, I'd like to thank you. Mr. Nishant Verma, Mr. Tiwari, Mr. Singh, Mr. Manocha, Mr. Vesh, uh, and Mr. Aluwalia on LinkedIn. Yeah, so that's it. That's great. I wish you a beautiful day personally and professionally. I'll see you tomorrow, same place, same time, hopefully. It's 9:06. We're gonna punch in. Take care and have a beautiful day. Or should we talk for a couple of minutes? If anybody has questions, I can take time because we punch in at 9:10, around 9:10. So we have a few minutes. Uh, Otherwise, we could just move away from the whole scene. Oh, yeah. So somebody asked me that question, right? Why did you, Mr. Weber Manocha asked, what made you start Thinker's Frequency? Well, I've talked about this, Mr. Manocha. So I follow Scott Adams, sir, the writer about, the writer of Loser Think, How to Fail at Almost Everything and Still Win Big, and so on and so on. Very great books. He's the writer of Dilbert Comics, the Economic Times comics, which come great comics, brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And he's also the world's best political commentator. He predicted the rise of Trump, right? So that was extraordinary. So he does something called Coffee with Scott Adams, where he discusses majorly politics and mental models, right? Because he's an expert at persuasion and hypnosis. So he discusses mental model, and that he does every day in the morning, 7 o'clock his time. And he's been doing that for 10 years. And I've been a keen follower. So then a few months ago, precisely 109, 10 days ago, he said that he's gotten prostate cancer, which has spread to his bones. And he won't be able to, he might just check out of his domain. That meant he might just pass away, right? And everybody was very sad. I was very sad. And I thought there should be something that continues his legacy because I've learned a lot from him. And that's how I started Thinker's Frequency, just to honor his legacy, continue his legacy, and, build something of our own. Because he discusses politics. I didn't want to discuss politics at all. Mental models, sure. Thinking ways, sure. But not politics. So I thought of translating all those mental models, right? The whole thinking models to business and finance. So that's what we do. We discuss business and finance with all the thinking models that Scott Adams, sir, and every psychologist and every, have got. Mr. Singh says, speak about what you're building in the hiring space. So it's not clearly in the hiring space. We've, grown up. It's a connection machine. What we are building is human connections in the age of AI. What we say is that people are going to spend a lot of time with AI, right? Talking to agents and so on and so forth. That time could be used to make better connections with people. How? So let's say you talk to AI. The AI has a lot of context about you. It knows you personally, it knows you professionally, it knows you in every way. And then it also talks to other people, right? What if you allow that AI to actually connect you with other people who you want to meet? So if you want to hire somebody, if you want to work with somebody, if you want a friend, a partner, or whatever, right? A date, you could actually use the AI to make that connection. So what we do is attract people through celebrity models. So what happens is we made something like sanjeevbikhchandani.kavisha.ai, right? So people can talk to a model which is built on Sanjeev sir's data, right? It's trained on Sanjeev sir's voice. So it's basically, it draws from his life and experiences. So we could do that for Kiara Advani as well, right? We could do that for everybody. We could do that for companies. We are working on paid pilots with companies, training them on their models so that their bot can talk in their language to anybody who wants to talk to them, right? So those people, these agents bring a lot of people, and then once those people can come to the platform, they can connect amongst each other for hiring, for friendships, for meeting ups, for meetups, for dates. So that's what we are building, right? It's a platform which companies and influencers can use to engage their audience, to nurture their audience, to develop deals, leads, to hire people. And then once people come to the platform, they can connect amongst each other as well. So that's what we are building. It's not announced, but since we are just 9 people on YouTube and what, 6 people on LinkedIn, it's as good as stealth, right? I don't talk about it in public right now, but yeah, that's what I'm building. So I hope that answered. And with that, we should come to an end, right? It was great talking. Everybody, have a beautiful day. Take care and see you tomorrow, hopefully. Bye bye.